Dramatic dashcam video out of upstate New York where a crash caused a massive pileup. You can see a truck plow through a line of cars. One of those cars actually caught fire after slamming into the highway divider.
The world of reality TV and hip-hop was rocked to its core last night. Beloved love and hip-hop star Yandy. Smith is fighting for her life after a devastating car accident left her critically injured and clinging to survival. Sirens echoed through the city as paramedics raced against time, pulling Yandy from the twisted wreckage of her SUV. The streets where she once walked with confidence and power now bear the scars of a nightmare no one saw coming. Inside the hospital, the scene is pure heartbreak. Mendeecees, usually the pillar of strength, was seen collapsing to his knees, tears streaming down his face as doctors delivered grim updates. Friends, family, and fans are in shock. How could this happen? What really caused the crash? And most importantly, will Yandy survive? The countdown to truth has begun. This isn't just another headline. It's a story of tragedy, love, secrets, and the desperate fight for one woman's life. It was supposed to be an ordinary night dinner with friends, a quick drive home, and a quiet evening with family. But for Yandy Smith, that night would become the most terrifying chapter of her life. Shortly after 11:47 p.m., emergency dispatchers in downtown Atlanta received a chilling 911 call. A major accident. Vehicle overturned. Multiple injuries. Please hurry. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights bathed the asphalt, sirens piercing the night air as first responders raced toward the scene. What they found was a scene straight out of a nightmare. Yandy's SUV had slammed into a guardrail on the I-85 exit ramp. The impact so violent it sent the vehicle spinning twice before flipping onto its side. Shattered glass littered the road like fallen stars. The metal frame of the car was twisted beyond recognition, and smoke poured from the crushed hood. Bystanders who had rushed to help could be heard shouting, "There's someone inside." When firefighters pried open the mangled driver's side door, their fears were confirmed. Yandy was unconscious, barely breathing, her pulse weak but present. Paramedics moved with urgency, stabilizing her neck, fitting her with oxygen, and loading her onto a stretcher. The situation was critical. "She's fading," one medic yelled as they sped toward Grady Memorial Hospital under blaring sirens. By the time news of the crash hit social media, chaos had already erupted online. Hashtags like #PrayForYandy and #StayStrong. Yandy began trending within minutes. Fans, fellow cast members, and celebrities flooded Twitter and Instagram with prayers and disbelief. How could this happen to someone who seemed unstoppable? A businesswoman, reality star, and activist who had built an empire from the ground up. Back at the hospital, the scene was one of heartbreak and panic. Mendeecees, Yandy's husband and longtime partner, arrived within minutes of the ambulance. Witnesses say he ran through the emergency room doors, shouting her name, demanding answers, desperate to see her. Hospital staff urged him to stay calm. But nothing could prepare him for the reality he was about to face inside the trauma unit. Yandy was hooked to a tangle of machines. Her body was bruised and battered. Monitors beeped rhythmically, a haunting reminder that every second mattered. Doctors were working furiously, assessing internal injuries, managing blood loss, and attempting to stabilize her condition. At one point, medical staff reportedly performed CPR as her heart rate dangerously dipped. "She's fighting," a nurse was overheard saying, "but it's bad. It's very bad." When Mendeecees was finally allowed into the room, the sight broke him. Gone was the strong, unshakable man fans had seen on screen. In his place was a husband crumbling under the weight of fear. He fell to his knees beside Yandy's bed, tears streaming down his face as he clutched her hand. "Baby, please, don't leave me. Don't you dare leave me," he whispered, his voice cracking. Friends and family soon gathered in the hospital's waiting area, their faces etched with shock. Some prayed silently. Others sobbed uncontrollably. The love and hip-hop community rallied online, sending messages of hope and organizing vigils outside the hospital. "Yandy is a fighter," one castmate tweeted. She's overcome everything thrown at her. This won't be any different. But beneath the flood of support, questions began to swirl. Questions that would only grow louder in the days to come. What caused the crash? Was it a tragic accident, or was there something more to the story? Witnesses reported seeing another vehicle speed away moments after the collision, fueling speculation of a possible hit-and-run. Traffic cameras in the area had mysteriously malfunctioned that night, adding more layers of intrigue. And an anonymous source claimed that Yandy had been followed earlier in the evening, a detail that sent social media into a frenzy. By sunrise, reporters had gathered outside the hospital, hungry for updates. Police confirmed they were investigating the crash, but details remained scarce. "We are treating this as a serious incident," a spokesperson said. "At this time, we cannot rule out any possibilities." Their statement only deepened the mystery. Meanwhile, inside the ICU, Yandy's condition remained critical but stable. Doctors managed to stop internal bleeding and were closely monitoring swelling around her brain. The next 48 hours, they warned, would be crucial. "She's in the fight of her life," one surgeon told the family. "We're doing everything we can." The gravity of the situation wasn't lost on Mendeecees. Known for his calm and composure, he was seen pacing the hallways, breaking down repeatedly as friends tried to console him. At one point, he reportedly shouted, "I should have been there. I should have been driving." A heartbreaking reflection of his guilt and helplessness. As night fell again over Atlanta, candlelight vigils sprang up outside the hospital gates. Hundreds of fans gathered, holding signs that read, "Keep fighting, Yandy, and we love you." Kay sang, they prayed, they cried, united in their hope that the woman who had inspired so many would open her eyes once again. But beneath the prayers and the public support, darker narratives were beginning to emerge. Rumors circulated that Yandy had received threats in the weeks leading up to the crash, threats tied to ongoing business disputes and outspoken activism. Some claimed the accident was no accident at all. Others speculated about foul play. It was too early to know what really happened. But one thing was certain, the story was far from over. For now, Yandy lay silent, her fate uncertain, her strength being tested like never before. And as the world held its breath, one question echoed louder than any headline. Would the woman who had built an empire from resilience find the strength to survive the fight of her life? The sterile white walls of the ICU were filled with a heavy silence. It's the kind that crushes the air from your chest and makes every second feel like an eternity. For Yandy Smith, the powerhouse entrepreneur, reality TV icon, and mother whose name had become synonymous with strength, this was the fight of her life. And through it all, Mendeecees never left her side. He slept in a chair by the bed, refusing to go home. He spoke to her constantly, telling stories from their past, playing her favorite songs, reading messages from fans. "They're all waiting for you," he would say softly. "You're still there, Queen." But even as he tried to stay strong, the cracks were showing. Witnesses described moments where he would leave the room, collapse in the hallway, and cry until his body shook. In one particularly heartbreaking moment, he was seen punching the wall outside the ICU, blood dripping from his knuckles as he shouted, "This isn't fair. She doesn't deserve this." The emotional weight wasn't his alone. Their children asked when mommy would wake up. Friends struggled to find words that could offer comfort. Even castmates, known for drama and feuds, put differences aside, rallying behind Yandy and Mendeecees in solidarity. "When one of us hurts, we all hurt." One of them posted, "This isn't about TV, this is about family." Meanwhile, the investigation into the crash continued. Police confirmed they were reviewing surveillance footage and interviewing witnesses, but no arrests had been made. The possibility of a hit-and-run, or worse, foul play, remained on the table. This uncertainty added another layer of torment for Mendeecees, who privately questioned whether this was truly an accident. "I keep thinking about that other car," he confided to a friend. "What if someone did this on purpose?" Inside the hospital, the battle continued. Yandy's body fought to heal, minute by minute. At one point, doctors reported a slight increase in responsiveness, a flicker of movement in her fingers, a subtle reaction to stimuli. It wasn't much, but it was enough to ignite a glimmer of hope. Mendeecees seized on it, refusing to let despair win. "See? I know you're still in there," he whispered. "You're coming back to me. I know it." Outside, fans organized candlelight vigils in multiple cities. Murals of Yandy appeared on walls painted with messages of strength and resilience. Celebrities sent flowers and prayers. And yet the fear remained. The fear that the woman who had built a legacy on strength might not return the same. Or at all. Every beep of the heart monitor felt like a countdown. Every doctor's update carried the weight of the world. But through the tears, the pain, and the sleepless nights, one truth never changed. Yandy was still fighting. And as long as she was fighting, Mendeecees and the millions who loved her would fight too. The next 24 hours would prove crucial. And as the sun rose over Atlanta once again, the question on everyone's lips remained unchanged. Would Yandy Smith wake up? And if she did, would life ever be the same again? While Yandy Smith lay unconscious in a sterile hospital room, fighting for her life, storm was building outside those walls, one that had nothing to do with medicine and everything to do with mystery. What had first been labeled a tragic accident was now under intense scrutiny, and the more investigators uncovered, the less it looked like a simple twist of fate. From the moment news of the crash broke, questions had surrounded the circumstances of that night. Witnesses had reported seeing another vehicle speeding away from the scene moments after Yandy's SUV hit the guardrail. Others claimed they heard the sound of a collision, a brief but distinct impact before Yandy's car lost control. Police initially described it as a single-vehicle accident. But as evidence mounted, that explanation started to unravel. 3 days after the crash, a grainy piece of surveillance footage surfaced online. It was captured from a security camera near the exit ramp where the accident occurred. Though blurry, the video appeared to show a dark-colored sedan following closely behind Yandy's SUV just seconds before the crash. As her car veered off course, the sedan accelerated and vanished into the night. The clip went viral within hours. Social media erupted with theories. "This was no accident," one fan tweeted. "Someone hit her and ran." Others speculated that Yandy had been targeted, pointing to her rising influence in the entertainment industry and her outspoken activism as possible motives. Hashtags like #JusticeForYandy and #FindTheDriver dominated trending lists across platforms. Then came the leaks, and the story grew even darker. An anonymous source claiming to work within the Atlanta Police Department contacted a local news outlet with explosive allegations. According to the source, investigators had reason to believe the crash was intentional. Tire marks at the scene suggested a forceful impact from behind, strong enough to destabilize Yandy's vehicle, but subtle enough to look like an accident. "We're not ruling out foul play," the source said. "In fact, we're actively pursuing it." The theory gained even more traction when reports surfaced that Yandy had received several threatening messages in the weeks leading up to the crash. According to people close to her, the messages were anonymous but chilling, warning her to stay quiet and stop poking at powerful people. Many pointed to her ongoing involvement in criminal justice reform and her outspoken criticism of systemic corruption as possible reasons someone might want to silence her. Mendeecees, already drowning in fear and heartbreak, was now consumed by anger. "If someone did this to her, I swear I'll find them," he told a reporter outside the hospital. "I don't care how long it takes. I don't care who they are. They're not getting away with this." The investigation shifted into overdrive. Detectives began canvassing the area, searching for eyewitnesses and additional footage. Police confirmed they were seeking a person of interest connected to a vehicle matching the description of the one seen in the leaked video. Insurance investigators, an accident. Reconstruction experts were brought in to analyze every inch of the crash site. Meanwhile, the public's thirst for answers intensified. Online forums turned into amateur detective hubs, with users dissecting traffic data, matching vehicle models, and cross-referencing license plates. Some fans claim to have identified the sedan in question, allegedly registered to a shell company with ties to a rival business venture. Yandy had spoken out against months earlier. While unconfirmed, the rumor sent social media into overdrive. As pressure mounted, more disturbing details emerged. According to leaked police documents, Yandy's SUV showed signs of external impact inconsistent with a single vehicle accident. Paint transfer on the rear bumper suggested contact with another car. Investigators also noted that the damage pattern indicated a deliberate nudge, a tactic often used in targeted collisions, to cause a driver to lose control without leaving obvious evidence. It was no longer just speculation. It was beginning to look like someone wanted Yandy Smith out of the way. Behind closed doors, Mendeecees and the Smith family hired a private security team and legal counsel. Their mission to find out who was behind the crash. "We're done playing games," said one family spokesperson. "This isn't just about justice, it's about safety. Whoever did this tried to destroy a mother, a wife, and a leader." Even Yandy's castmates, many of whom had clashed with her on screen, began speaking out. "We fight on TV, but this is real life," one co-star said in an interview. "Whoever did this needs to be held accountable." The unfolding investigation also attracted attention from federal authorities. Sources claimed the FBI had been briefed on potential links between the crash and an ongoing investigation into corruption and racketeering. An investigation Yandy had reportedly cooperated with as part of her activism. If true, the possibility that her advocacy had made her a target was both chilling and deeply plausible. As all this unfolded, Yandy remained in a coma, unaware of the storm raging beyond her hospital walls. Doctors reported slight improvements, occasional involuntary movements, stable vitals, but warned that recovery was still uncertain. The public waited anxiously for any sign of progress. Every update from the hospital made headlines. Every flicker of hope was shared millions of times online, and through it all, one question haunted everyone watching this story unfold. Was this really an accident or an attempted assassination disguised as one? Mendeecees refused to leave her side. Every day, he spoke to her, telling her about the investigation, the protests, the millions of people praying for her recovery. "They tried to break us," he whispered one night, tears streaming down his face. "But we're not broken. We're going to get justice, and you're going to wake up." The fight for truth had taken on a life of its own. What began as a devastating accident had now become a battle against unseen enemies. A quest for justice that was pulling back the curtain on secrets far darker than anyone imagined. The world was no longer just watching Yandy's fight for survival, it was watching a much bigger war unfold. One between truth and power, silence and justice, life and destruction. And as the investigation closed in on its targets, one thing became clear. The people behind this weren't just trying to silence Yandy Smith. They were terrified of what she represented. The weeks that followed felt like a lifetime. What started as a nightmare on a rain-slick Atlanta highway had turned into a battle that captured the world's attention. Yandy Smith, mother, wife, activist. And doctors had initially given Mendeecees and the family a 50-50th chance. But in the fourth week, there was a shift. Subtle at first, but undeniable. During a late-night visit, as Mendeecees held Yandy's hand and whispered stories from their life together, he felt something. A slight squeeze. At first, he thought it was his imagination. But then it happened again. Stronger, deliberate, real. "She hears me," he whispered, his voice cracking as tears streamed down his face. "She's still with us." The medical team confirmed what he already knew. Yandy's neurological responses were improving. It wasn't a miracle recovery, not yet, but it was a breakthrough. Brain activity had increased. Reflexes were returning. The fight she was waging in silence was turning in her favor. News of the development spread like wildfire. #Yandy is fighting began trending globally. Vigils outside the hospital turned into celebrations of hope. Fans gathered with candles, singing her favorite songs, chanting messages of strength. And while the world prayed for her awakening, The investigation into the crash took a dramatic turn. Detectives announced they had identified a suspect. A 38-year-old man linked to a shell company with ties to a rival media group. According to investigators, the suspect's vehicle matched the one seen in the viral surveillance footage. Even more shocking, phone records revealed he had been in contact with an anonymous number known to have sent threatening messages to Yandy. In the weeks before the crash, the revelation sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Was this truly a deliberate attack? And if so, who had ordered it? The suspect refused to cooperate, but investigators hinted that he was not acting alone. Subpoenas were issued. Bank records were seized. And whispers of a larger conspiracy, one tied to silencing Yandy's activism and influence, began to swirl. For Mendeecees, however, the investigation was now secondary to the fight happening inside the ICU. He had spent nearly a month in a fog of fear, grief, and exhaustion. But now, hope was fueling him. Every day he talked to Yandy for hours, reading her messages from fans, playing voice notes from their children, even sharing news about the investigation. "They tried to stop you," he said one night, gripping her hand. "But you're stronger than they'll ever be." Then, on the 31st day after the crash, it happened, as dawn broke over Atlanta. Nurses monitoring Yandy noticed increased brain activity and a change in her vitals. Moments later, her eyelids fluttered. Once, twice, then, slowly, agonizingly slowly, they opened. The room fell silent. Mendeecees, who had been dozing in a chair beside her, leaped to his feet. "Baby," he whispered. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes moved toward him, unfocused but aware. A tear rolled down his cheek as he pressed his forehead against hers. "You did it," he whispered. "You came back to me." The news broke before noon. Major media outlets, blogs, and social platforms exploded with headlines. Yandy Smith opens eyes after 31 days in coma. Across the world, fans rejoiced. It wasn't just a story of survival, it was a story of defiance, of resilience. A woman refusing to be written off. But the road ahead was far from easy. Doctors cautioned that recovery would be long and difficult. Physical therapy, speech rehabilitation, and neurological treatments lay ahead. Yandy would have to relearn basic functions and regain strength. And though her memory remained intact, her body bore the scars of the trauma. Yet those who knew her best weren't worried. Yandy had never been one to back down from a fight, and this would be no exception. "If anyone can overcome this," said one of her closest friends, "it's Yandy. She's built different. She doesn't quit." Meanwhile, the investigation continued to unfold. The suspect arrested in connection with the crash faced charges of attempted murder and conspiracy. Authorities hinted that more arrests could follow. Insiders claimed that powerful figures, possibly even industry executives, were under investigation for orchestrating the attack. What had started as an accident was now shaping up to be one of the biggest scandals the entertainment industry had ever seen. But for Yandy and Mendeecees, none of that mattered in the moment. What mattered was that she was alive, that she was awake, that their family, though shaken, was still whole. In one of her first post-recovery moments, Yandy whispered to Mendeecees, her voice faint but determined, "We're not done. Not yet." Those words became a rallying cry. Fans adopted them as a hashtag. Supporters printed them on signs and t-shirts. And in the weeks that followed, it became a symbol of something bigger. A reminder that strength isn't about how many times you fall, but how many times you rise, as the documentary of her life continues to unfold. Yandy's story is no longer just about tragedy. It's about transformation. It's about resilience. It's about the power of love, community, and sheer human will to defy the odds. Yes, the scars of that night will always remain on her body, on her soul, and in the memories of those who nearly lost her. But they will also serve as proof that even in the darkest moments, hope can shine through. That even when silence seems permanent, voices can rise again. And that even when the world tries to break you, strength can rebuild you stronger than before. Yandy Smith's story is far from over. In many ways, this is just the beginning of a new chapter, one defined not by fame or television, but by resilience, justice, and purpose. She's vowed to continue her advocacy work with even greater intensity. Mendeecees has pledged to hold those responsible accountable. And fans around the world now see her not just as a reality star, but as a survivor. The crash that nearly ended her. Life has instead become a symbol of everything she's always stood for: strength, perseverance, and the unbreakable power of love. This story isn't just about a tragic car crash, it's about strength, resilience, and the power of refusing to give up. Yandy Smith's journey from the brink of death to the slow, courageous path of recovery is more than a headline. It's a reminder that even when the world tries to break you, you can rise. But now the fight moves beyond the hospital walls. Questions remain unanswered. Who was behind the crash? What forces tried to silence her? And will justice ever truly be served? The truth deserves to see the light, and your voice can help make that happen. Here's how you can join the fight. Comment below and share what you believe really happened. Was this an accident or something far more sinister? Share this story with your friends, family, and followers. Let the world know Yandy's fight isn't just hers. It's a symbol of hope for anyone battling against impossible odds. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update as this story continues to unfold. Every post,